And here we go. It's another edition of Rock Talk with Bob Bannister right here on CGCM Rock Radio. And joining me this time around, all the way from Melbourne. Isn't that right? Melbourne, I'm catching you in?
That's correct, Melon.
Melbourne, Australia is Matt from the band Cicadastone. How you doing, man?
Great, mate. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And I have to admit, just discovered your material and it's almost like a landslide coming over here all of a sudden. It's just we're just getting slammed with all this great Australian talent.
There's a lot here. There's always been a lot here. There's so much great music here, Unfortunately, we're stuck on this big rock, right out in the down the bottom, and it's hard to get it out. But it is getting out, and we are starting to get some focus, which is great.
So why don't you tell us about Cicadastone? Who are you guys?
Okay, so Cicadastone have been around, I think, oh geez, I forget, like maybe 2013, I think we formed.
Okay.
And it was always just kind of like a recording project to start with. I always just had songs lying around, and it was me and my brother basically that sort of drove the project. And we got to a point where we had an album worth of material and just wanted to make a record. There was no plan. We just wanted to make a record, and we just recruited a drummer and did that. And then through that, we recruited a bass player and then put the record together and just kind of went out there in those first sort of 3 years and then just repeated the process. People have come and gone, but the current lineup is me and my brother still, Mark Robbins.
Mhm.
My son actually, Ethan Robbins, has joined the band playing drums with us because he's just kick ass. And Tommy, who was on our last record, is also on our new record. So the lineup's been pretty solid for the last few years, which is great.
And your latest record is called Future Echoes, just released not that long ago. Um, would I be remiss to say that I'm hearing a lot of Alice in Chains, Stone Temple
Yeah,
Pilots influence in that?
yes, absolutely. I mean, I grew up in that era, It's funny when I was playing in bands in that era, everyone sounded like that, and so
Mm-hmm.
you're just kind of like a dime a dozen. But I never left that era. I'm still in that era. So I with this band, when we first started, people would be like, "Oh, I haven't heard a band like that in years." And it's a bit of a novelty, would be a bit of a novelty act, you know. A
Yeah.
tribute band that isn't a tribute band, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
And we've just stuck to it and just kept it going. So yeah, those the DNA of the '90s is absolutely. I'm not even trying to hide it. It is just in there. So and there's very STP, AIC, Soundgarden, all those things all those bands that I grew up with, are just totally in that mix.
Absolutely. And like I said, I heard it in that one. Your previous record I found was a little more Stone Temple Pilots, but
Yeah.
loving the sound on this current record just took me right back. I worked in Pennsylvania for a couple summers in the early 90s, and that was my groove then. And put this on, it's just like, wow, that's a real time trip, man. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Pleasure. It is my trip, and but I really feel like we've managed to, I don't know, take the essence of that and just put our own little spin on it as well. It still
Hmm.
feels quite modern production wise. It feels really modern. Uh, and Yeah, it's just a nice combination of a modern twist with a classic '90s kind of sound.
Now you alluded to the fact that your brother is in this band as well, and now your son. So you're kind of getting into that the Youngs territory, the Van Halen's territory, a little bit of
Yeah, yeah,
a little bit
that's
of the
right.
DeLeo's territory as well.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
You know.
Um, yeah, absolutely. And the with my son, that was never planned. Like he's on his own musical journey. He's got his own band. He's doing his own thing. But when we were making the record, our previous drummer, he's a lovely guy, but he just kind of hit a wall, I think. And we were in the studio. We were set up to record this album right at the start, and he's
Hmm.
just gone. I just can't. And I could hear. We did one night of recording, and it was pretty flat,
Yeah.
and he just wasn't there, actually in the right headspace to make a record with us, and so he had to move on, and it just left us literally uh, in the studio set up with a drum kit going and got a drummer. So case of, well, let's get Ethan in and let him hit the drums and see what happens for a night. And he did that, and he did a great job. He smashed it, and it makes to me makes perfect sense because he's grown up listening to all the stuff that I grew up listening to. I just threw it on him. So he just knew how to approach the songs really naturally. I didn't really have to give him
Hmm.
much direction at all, which was great. He just took to it.
And that is a great moment when you realize, you've passed that torch to the next generation, to your kids. I mean, I remember my son when he was like 11 or 12 coming to me with my copy of I think it was Led Zeppelin 4 and handing it to me.
Yeah.
He goes, "Can we listen to this now?" It's like,
Yes.
oh, yes.
That's Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I love it. It's great.
Absolutely. So what's your son's band's name?
He's in this kind of like they're kind of like a garagey surf rock kind of vibe band. They're
Okay.
called Impies, and they just put out a record earlier this year, and it's totally, like production wise, flip it on its head. It's everything about it's the opposite.
Right.
It's all room mics. It's real dirty, sort of driven vocals, and they're great songs, and they're great kids, and they're doing great stuff. So have a
Excellent.
listen.
I'll, I'll have to dig that out. Yes, most
I did
definitely.
their album's called "Spent the Night with the Spirit" by Stimpy's. Check it out.
Okay, most definitely. But you were saying about Australia being down under and being on this island, isolated. I'm drawing a lot of parallels though between Australia and Canada for the music scene. Like here, our cities are drawn way out. Our countries are about similar size. Hard to get stuff out there. With us, we send our bands to down to the US or over to Europe.
Yeah.
Where do Australian bands go? I mean, you can go to New Zealand, but that's pretty small. Where's next? Japan?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I think Japan is a nice little hop, skip, and a jump. It's pretty easy to get to. I'd love to go to Japan with Cicadastone. That would be something I would definitely like to do. I think Europe is the next sort of real area that bands venture out to, because usually you can travel multiple countries pretty easily. The visas
Mm-hmm.
are much easier. They're much easier to obtain and manage. It's much more affordable to make it all happen in Europe. America is, it's a nightmare. Aussie bands of a certain size can do it, but anything underneath, it's just you're just pushing shit uphill. You'll never be able to get over there, get through customs, play a tour, and actually survive. It's just not going to happen. So it's really hard to get into America, and Canada is like, that's right at the top. How the
Yeah.
hell do we get there? So there is one Aussie band actually. I'm sure you've heard of them. They're called the Lazies,
The Lazies.
and they have yeah the Lays. They're from Sydney, and they've pretty much relocated to Canada. They did so much touring in Europe and Canada, that they basically just rebased themselves in Canada, and they're always, and it's a great base for them. It seems to have worked for them, that they've gotten a fan base in Canada, and they're doing quite well, and they can just jump over to Europe quite easily, which is great.
Wow.
I
I'm learning
mean,
something here.
do
I'm
it,
gonna
do
I'm
it.
gonna look them up. Definitely.
Yeah, check out the Lazies. They're really good.
And I'm just discovering Southern River Band as well. They're currently out on tour in Europe right now as we speak, and they've just been
Yeah, I've
making
heard a
a
lot
pretty
about them.
big
I haven't heard
splash.
them.
No,
I I haven't heard them, and everyone keeps raving about them. And I do need to check them out because they've been through Melbourne many times, and I keep hearing their name. I'm like, I've got to check that band out.
Well, the first I heard of them
Just how it
was
is.
a couple months ago on Justin Hawkins YouTube channel,
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
went on there and he was totally raving about them. And then I looked them up, and next thing I know, another DJ from my radio station, he was playing them, and it was like, okay, yeah, these guys are really great, and that's what started me down this whole rabbit hole. I discovered Art of Dysfunction. I discovered Southern River Band. Through that, I discovered you guys, and just it's amazing. And then discovered the website Beautiful Car Crash, which is just leading me to all these other great
Byron.
Australian bands. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great, Byron. He's a big supporter of local artists, and he's always pushing new releases. We need guys like Byron. He's great.
And that's what we try to do up here in Canada with CGCM Rock Radio. We try and always push the up and coming, the new guys. It's the Iron Maidens and the Aussies and the Van Halens and stuff like that. They've already got that foothold. We need to bring up
Totally.
the next group. I mean, sure, okay, I've got my ACDC albums up behind me, but you know what? It's
Yeah.
yeah, they're great, they're established, but it's all about you guys that are the next rung down and
Yeah,
coming up.
that's right. Planting the seeds for the next generation of riff makers, so to speak.
Hmm.
If you don't invest in those kids, there'll be a huge hole. There probably already is, actually. I know in Australia we have like summer touring acts that are like a circuit of festival circuit, and it's just always the same shit. It's always the same big established acts that have been around forever, and you just wonder what's going to happen when they start to finish up. Like there's
Yeah,
just a huge gap. There's like a 20-year gap of no opportunity, of artists that are just going to be wondering how they fill that void. So it needs to be done. It really does, and any up and coming promising band that's showing real potential needs to get that support.
absolutely, absolutely. And I'm seeing a lot of change in the music industry. Like before, the standard would be, you go, you play your clubs, you get discovered, boom, you release an album. Now it's a lot of indie stuff, and a lot of the artists that I've been talking to are saying, well, yeah, it's nice to release albums, but you know what? It's just as easy for us financially and on a band level to just go, okay, here's a single, and then a few weeks later go, here's another single, and just ride on that. Are you seeing the same
It's really
shit?
true. Oh, absolutely. I have a friend who's lives nearby, and we have this conversation a lot. We talk about he has a great analogy of it's like a single is like a balloon, and when you hit the balloon up in the air, that's when you release a single. But it doesn't take long before the balloon starts to come back down. So you
That's
got to hit
right.
the balloon again. So basically, what he's saying is, if you want to stay, I guess have some sort of focus on your band, you've got to be able to be following up with releases more regularly and putting out an album once every 3-4 years. I mean, that model, it's a dead model. It's a dead model when there's so much music coming at you. To have focus for like 5 minutes and then disappear again for another few years, it's not going to work. Which I totally, and we've been doing that model. Like Cicadastone have released 3 albums 4 years apart each time. It's hard to pull albums together. But after this album's done its dash, I'm very much going to be looking to look at the next bunch of songs and take it a song at a time, because I'm not waiting 4 more years to put out new music. I'm not doing that. So
No, and I watched a little bit of Brian Johnson's got a documentary series where he interviews different guys, and he was interviewing Joe Elliott from Def Leppard, and Joe was saying something about that, where what, it's do we have time to be going in the studio for another 5 years and making an album, or is it just as easy to put something together and say, what, this is pretty good, here, let's just throw this out and see what happens.
I think especially, an established band like Def Leppard and even someone like Joe Elliott being the age they are, coming that statement coming from him actually is really makes a lot of sense because they're getting old, man. They're getting
Yeah.
really old.
Yes, they are.
And if they want to wait 5 years, that's 5 years of their life that they could have been putting out music that they haven't. So you can either put out a record or you can maybe put out, 5 singles in that time, do a really good job of it, 5 singles and work towards an album, maybe. I don't know. But in the case of, old bands, absolutely. Just get the music out.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. So let's switch things up a little bit, get into the really fun part of the interview here. I know every DJ asks artists this question. You're on a desert island. What's your number one album that you're going to take with you to the desert island, man?
Oh, that's a hard one, but it's a hard one and an easy one. It's a hard one because there's so many amazing records, but I would definitely have to take Alice in Chains' Dirt on that island because that's the album that probably had the biggest impact on my life and shaped my life. And I can play that back to back any day of the week like it's for the first time. I've got no problem with that record, so it would have to be that one.
That is an incredible album. Now that you mention that, I mean, every once in a while, I'll pull that out of my collection. I'll put it on, and I'll listen to it for a little while, and then I'll put it back in the collection. Forget about it, and then come back to it again. And every time I do that, it sounds just as fresh. It's a very great album.
What I like about albums of that era, and even like Soundgarden, Super Unknown, they're amazing albums. Not because of their productions. The productions are great. Don't get me wrong, but when you compare the sonics of those albums to a modern rock record, like modern records are wider, deeper, clearer, and I'm talking even home, really really good home recordings. Like it's come a long way, and it just highlights the fact that a good song doesn't need a good recording. Not to say they're not good recordings, but
Right.
a good song with a great melody, you can have an okay recording and it'll still be a fucking great song with a great melody. And I think those records are testament to great songs first. And great productions, but great songs. Absolutely. That's the key.
Perfect, perfect. And just before we wrap it up, just do one more segment here. I like to call this or that. It's a series of 6 questions. Just you give me your choice of either of these two, and we'll go from there. So the first one up: tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Steak or seafood?
Oh, Jesus. Steak.
Festival gig or club gig?
Club gig.
Beach or amusement park?
Beach.
And finally, this was I don't know if this is more of a Canadian question or not, but pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Fuck yes. Pineapple all the
I don't
time.
know. Is there that huge debate down there in Australia where people are saying
Yeah,
it's illegal, you shouldn't be doing that, or
it is. For me, it's a absolutely. I love pineapple on anything. So pineapple on pizza, yes, please, definitely.
there
And
you
the people who
go.
say no, yeah, they can just get fucked.
That's awesome. That's great.
Uh,
Hey, I want to thank you, Matt Robbins from Cicadastone, for joining us here on Rock Talk with Bob Bannister on CGCM Rock Radio. Hit us with your
mhm.
website.
What's that? Hit us with the website.
Absolutely.
Um, I can't remember it. There might be a website. I'd say the Facebook page probably would be where you'd find. Oh, you know what? Linktree, Cicadastone Linktree. Go there because that's got
Right
everything.
on. Right on. Hey, thank you very much, Matt. This has been absolutely amazing talking to you guys. And you know what? I'm looking forward to hearing more stuff from Cicada Stone.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for having us.